Hello everybody, getting myself organized here, expanding some questions so I can see all the actual words written down. Okay, alright, cool. Let's do this. Ask me anything for Thursday, September 28th, 2023. Alright, got some good questions, got them all called up from the private Facebook group as well as the BTWB Squads feature. And I'll start off with just a couple cool things that came in, just some cool, fun motivation. So the first one is from Melanie C, and she did her version of Christine the other day, the rowing deadlift box jump deal, but she did it with running. That's how she did it last time, so she repeated it. And she says, holy smokes, I wasn't expecting that much improvement going into this workout after all my various health issues. Today I learned that exercising when you can, plus resting when you need to, and following the Linchpin programming equals improved fitness levels. Super stoked that I beat my goal time. She beat her previous time by 3 minutes and 16 seconds, so that's fantastic. Okay, and then one more cool one. This is from Dan. This was sent to me via email. He says, hi Pat, I've been meaning to reach out and say thank you. A bit of my background. I'm 40 and I do a lot of travel. I'm on the road about 50% of the time. Yikes, by the way. That's a rough life, 50% on the road. I don't have Facebook or a social media account. God bless you. Hence the email. I've been doing CrossFit for 6 years and Linchpin for the last 18 months. I love the programming and your philosophy on modulating intensity. I'm the healthiest and strongest I've ever been, and it's thanks in no small part to what you do. I even got my level 1 because of it. I listen to all the Very Not Random podcasts. Much appreciated, and special shout out to the limited equipment option, the dumbbell option. Given how often I find myself in a hotel gym, it's been a lifesaver. And that's from Dan. So thanks for the kind words, Dan. Glad it's treating you well. And with that, we will dive into the Ask Me Anything. Okay, here we go. Ready? In no particular order. Reed W. Are you planning on being at the Rogue Invitational this year? Yes. Any Linchpin meetups or events happening? I live in the area and I'll be attending with some other friends / Linchpin members and would love to say hello. Awesome. Yeah, so I know there are Linchpin people showing up to the Rogue Invitational, like without a doubt. Reed, if you're going to be there and you'd like to be the point person on some sort of meetup and when that would actually occur, shoot me an email or text. We'll make this happen. But I know there's a bunch of Linchpin people being there. And yes, I will be there. And I'll be there on my own. I'll be there as part of the event for Rogue. I'll be there in conjunction with BTWB as well, so I'll be wearing several hats. Same thing that happened last year. And it was also great to link up with a bunch of Linchpinners. So absolutely do that. And meetups are happening, and Justin, who is in the private Facebook group, you might have noticed over the last few days, he's been taking polls and starting to get some data about, he's running heading up a meetup, I should say, and figuring out when and where that's going to go down. So yeah, so search him out as well, or he'll search you out. I'll put you two in contact and life will be good. But awesome. I'll see you at the Rogue Invitational. It'll be fun, and I recommend people go there if they can. Okay, from Christy J. We've seen Carrie Pierce best both the men and women in workouts such as Mary in 2019. And at Atlanta, or wherever the heck you say that, in 2020 at the ranch, I believe Sam Briggs also won a couple events outright. My husband thinks we will see this happen more as athlete gets stronger. But I want to know, do you think a male athlete and a female athlete with the same skill set and background would be even competitors, or is there a separation simply due to the physiological differences? Well, I mean, to some degree, I think you've answered your question there. I mean, we've seen it happen before. I don't see any particular reason as to why here and there you won't see the women best the men every now and then in a particular event. Now, if I had to bet on certain things, it would be, not ultimate 1-rep things, 1-rep max back squat, clean and jerk, things like that. But mixed modality workouts, engine dependent, gymnastics, a little bit leaning towards gymnastics, or a little bit lighter loading, I don't see any reason that couldn't happen at all. The women are absolutely ridiculously fit. All right. Let's see, another one here from JJ. Hey coach, I dusted off my slam ball the other day to do some Russian twist for accessory work. Completely optional, of course. But it got me thinking, why don't you program slam balls? It seems like a very effective movement and I happen to like them a lot. Is it simply because our family members are sleeping at that hour in the morning? So, great question. And this is this question, you could take out slam balls and probably put in an almost infinite number of, hey, why don't you, hey, why don't you, hey, why don't you, hey, why don't you, throw this in. And your question has also what usually follows it, which is true, which is if somebody says, hey, I'd like to see this particular movement a bit more, it's also followed by, I also happen to like this movement. Rarely do I see somebody say, hey, why don't you work these things in, which I absolutely despise. No one tends to say that. So, slam balls, ground overhead, some hip closing, also throwing it down to the ground. Great movement, fantastic movement. I've got 3 slam balls in the garage. I'll play around with them every now and then, or, use them as part of a warm-up if I need to, have my kids play with them or whatnot. And you have to remember that, and this will actually relate to a question down the road here in the AMA. You can go into your garage, just like I can, grab the slam ball, and then do it. And of course, it's taxing to some degree, right? I mean, there's a loaded object and you're moving your body around, so it's going to tax you, of course, to some degree. But you can do it absolutely just fine. No problem. No problem at all, even though we don't really work them ever into the training. Because from an actual strength and conditioning minimalist approach, we select these movements that have the greatest transference to other movements. And so while that particular movement might not be in there, the movement pattern is there all the time. We've got plenty of ground overhead, we've got plenty of explosive hip opening, we've got hip closing, we've got midline development, we've got posterior chain, which is why you can just walk in there, grab the slam ball, and things are just totally fine. So what we focus on is strength and conditioning from a minimalist perspective with as much transference as within the movement selection as possible. And like I said, that's going to go right into another question here as well. Not this one, but down the road. CW CrossFit. I managed to rope a couple of kind members to help me get through my first test 13 on this upcoming Saturday. Ooh, it's going to be a good time. Unfortunately, I don't have enough self-belief / courage to do this solo. You might think that's true, but I don't believe you. I think you could do it just fine. I know that doing it with support probably defeats the objective a little bit. No, you'll get the full objective. It's still going to be 8,000 meters of running and 210 burpees. I'm going to be in the car for 2 hours afterwards. That's going to be nice. So, wondering what post-workout tips you would give before or after the drive back. What would you recommend on the Sunday after, for example, some massage, some specific movements to help recovery, modulating some intensity for the next week, etc., etc. So, in simple terms, movement is medicine is my belief on that one. And so, you're about to get in a car and sit down for 2 hours afterwards. Ideal? Absolutely not. And then when you have, if you stop maybe after an hour and you get out, you don't have to be the crazy person in the gas station parking lot doing a workout, but if you can do just some jumping jacks and some slow air squats to just move your musculature around, I think that will treat you so much better than not doing that. Of course, some good food, some water, the best sleep that you can get, and then the next Sunday as well, the day after, I think one of the worst things you could do is not move. Again, I would get out there and I would move. Wouldn't do a workout, whether you're pedaling the bike, gently rowing in the Concept 2 rower, whatever it happens to be. Again, some beautiful, movements that take you through a large range of motion, a lunge, an air squat, some shoulder pass-throughs, things like that. I think that will make you feel so much better. Now, if you have the option to go get a massage, have at it. I think that'll treat you really well. But you got this. You can do it. Glad you get some friends hitting it with you, and I can't wait to hear how it goes. Okay, Henry A. Lately, I've been getting more and more sore after workouts, with minimal change in intensity or volume in those workouts. I warm up before and stretch and cool down afterwards, but I'm constantly hobbling around, and it's exacerbated by periods of sitting. Any suggestions to help? So, it kind of relates to what CW said there a second ago. Absolutely exacerbated by periods of sitting. I mean, as I do this video with you right now, I'm standing at my desk, and I've been standing at my desk for, I can't remember when I got a standing desk. Is it at least 5 years ago or something like that? I don't think it's the suddenly magic cure-all to everything that ails you, but I do think it's just, one of those things that helps and makes me feel better over the course of the day. So you might want to try sitting less, standing more. And again, I personally find that moving is one of the best things that you can do to help alleviate that soreness. And especially, something is interesting and might have changed a little bit, because you say there, you're getting more sore, but as far as you can tell, you haven't changed your intensity and you haven't changed the volume of the workouts. So that's interesting. Workout volume hasn't changed, and you feel the intensity you're bringing to the workout hasn't changed, but you're more sore afterwards. So I would say it has to be those factors occurring outside of the workout. Sleep, nutrition, movement on off days, things of that nature. And I think that would be really where potentially you could benefit from greatly. So for example, which is also why yesterday's workout was programmed as for time or not. I kind of said in the video, I recommend you take advantage of it not for time, because we hit Christine earlier in the week, right? Which is just posterior chain through the roof. And then what do we have yesterday? Oh my goodness, we had 7 sets of 10 with a quote-unquote light, but a miserable little, loading. A lighter thruster for 7 sets of 10, but not for time, paired with some weighted pull-ups and things like that. I took that exactly like I recommended to CW CrossFit and to Henry A right there, that movement is medicine. So yesterday I went into the garage, didn't run the clock, didn't care about it at all. I could have been talking like this through the entire workout that I did yesterday. I'm just never really huffing and puffing. I'd do the set of 10 thrusters, I'd set them down, walk around for a while. I just I shook my legs out, took the time. Today, after doing that work, my legs feel phenomenal. Phenomenal. Better than if I had not done anything and just let that deadlift and rowing and box jump just continue to tighten everything up. So again, used intentionally, movement can be a very powerful medicine to not only strengthen the body, but keep you feeling good as well. All right. Jim L. If you were still working out with your knucklehead friends from 2005 on a regular basis, would you be more likely to hold your hand closer to the flame of intensity? Just wondering if the classroom competition causes you to push harder personally, and if, in your opinion, the average athlete pushes harder in a group setting. So I can only answer for me. So first question, if I was still working out with my knucklehead friends that I was back in 2005, would I likely hold my hand closer to the flame of intensity? No. Just wondering if the classroom competition causes you to push harder personally? No. In your opinion, does the average athlete push harder in a group setting? Probably so. Yep, I think probably so. It just never did it for me, though, to be quite honest with you. I don't know what it is. I don't really care about the pace of the person working out next to me. I don't really have an issue pushing when I need to push and not pushing when I don't need to push. And I actually can find that group setting, it doesn't work well for me personally, just because, I don't know, I like to take the time that I want to take to warm up, I want to do whatever I want to do, and I like to be on my schedule, and do things when I need to do them. So the group setting, although it has, wonderful benefits for a tremendous amount of people, for me personally, it's not my ideal workout environment. But I think most people, if you put them in a group, yeah, they probably push a little bit harder. So I think that's true for most people, but not for me personally. What I would also recommend people do, if they haven't already, is play with the Tempest feature in the BTWB app. That is a phenomenal, game-changing, world-uniting feature that BTWB has created. Whereas if you go to like the Linchpin workout of the day, and as you're looking at the workout, on the right-hand side of the workout, you'll see 3 little symbols. One's like a clock, and now I can't remember the other couple, but tap on one of them and it's Tempest basically, and you can set a Tempest match. And what that does is it basically gamifies your workout, where you can send a code or others can join your match, and you can set the time of the day that you're going to work out. And then on your phone, everyone does the workout together, and when you finish a particular number of reps or sets, you tap your phone, it advances your little icon, and you can see where you are in the workout. You can see where anyone who's joined your session from all around the world, now united, working out at the same time, and that you can get one heck of a push because suddenly you're like, oh, there's 2 people ahead of me, I gotta pick it up. So that Tempest feature, if you are working out solo and want to link up with some other people to get a push every now and then, so it works well for you, look into the BTWB Tempest feature. It's absolutely phenomenal, which is also why, in my humble opinion, I just don't know why anybody else would be on any other app. Now, obviously, I'm linked to BTWB, so that bias has to be addressed, or we're not being transparent, but I just don't get it. I mean, they are crushing it. Okay, let's see. Eric C. Who is a coach that was influential in your coaching journey? You certainly were and are one in mine. Well, thank you for the kind words, much appreciated. I think I just got to give a tip of the cap to the original himself, Mr. Greg Glassman. I just learned a tremendous amount from that individual, a tremendous amount, and I was fortunate to get to hear him speak and pick his brain and things like that, and I would say, yeah, that would probably have to be my answer right there. Okay, here we go. Here's a nice one from Phil T. It seems that each game season brings a new movement that becomes the new hotness/trend in the CrossFit world. One example this year was the pullover. I've seen it show up lately in a couple different programs. By the way, I'm not suggesting that it be added, but I'm curious. As cool as it looks on Instagram/YouTube, and understanding that new skills and movements are part of the games, would this be considered a functional movement or more of a gimmick movement? Does this have a place in regular programming, or are they easily covered by other more functional movements? Great question. And this links to the question earlier about slam balls. So, okay, let's take this apart one at a time. You're right, though. There's something that pops up every year in the games. The games are multiple things at the same time. They're wonderful. They're entertaining. Maybe they're inspirational. And at the same time, they can cause, and not you, Phil, but cause some people to suddenly chase something they shouldn't be chasing, spiral down a rabbit hole, think they're lacking something in their training, blah, 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 because you're right. The games are also several parts of, they're a test, but to some degree they have to be a bit of theater. And what I mean by theater is entertainment. They have to be, or people just aren't going to tune in. If it's not interesting, visually interesting to watch and entertaining, you're not going to get viewership. Channels aren't going to feature you. You're not going to get revenue from that. So there's a business side to it as well, that, the two things exist, just the real world. And so you've got to throw something in there to catch people off guard, and look what they thought of this year. Like, it's just the nature of it. So don't confuse what they've got to pull out of the hat every now and then to work into the test that year as to what you need to do in your daily strength and conditioning routine to be a ferociously fit human being, capable in all areas, with knees, back, and shoulders that don't hurt. That'd be the short answer right there. And let's think about this. I highly doubt that every single games athlete that showed up had done a pullover. I'm sure some of them sat there in the athlete briefing, heard it, and they were like, well, darn it, I've never done that. And I'm sure there are some who were like, haha, I actually thought that might come up eventually, and I've been doing it. Yet, I'm sure that all of them could do it just fine. Practiced it for a bit. Maybe the first few in the warm-up area felt awkward, then they started to get it. They had a little conversation with each other about what happens, then all of a sudden everybody's doing pullovers. And that's because, even if they hadn't been doing that specific movement, the core elements of the programming that they do each day have this amazing transference, and then with some practice you can just suddenly be doing other movements. So that's kind of what I would, lump that under there as well. Okay, let's see here. You guessed it, tomorrow's workout, slam balls and pullovers. Okay, from Mason M. I have a question about aging and prioritization. From what I've read, a large health issue with aging is loss of muscle mass. I'm 35 years old, so my ability to put on muscle mass is only going to get more difficult. I'm strong enough for everyday life, and I'm hovering around the middle of any leaderboard on BTWB. By the way, that's amazing. Remind me to come back to that. I'm also a bit overweight at around 23% body fat. I wouldn't consider that terrible, but it's definitely on the heavy side. My question is, for general long-term health, which would you prioritize? Adding a bit more muscle while I can, or dropping the excess weight? Obviously without going on any extreme diet. Okay, so great question. First of all, being around middle of the road on the BTWB leaderboard is misleading, because middle of the road sounds average, right? 50-50. But you have to remember, you're not 50-50 with the general population. You're not 50% in the general population. People on BTWB are a unique subset of society that take their health and fitness profoundly seriously. Okay? So that's not your average pool of people. So now, if you are in this pool of people hyper focused on their health and fitness, and you're in the middle of the pack with that group of people, that's pretty darn good. So first of all, celebrate that. You're doing great. Loss of muscle mass. The good thing is we got that covered. That's aided through resistance training, external loading, of which we do more than our fair share. So you'll be good to go with regards to doing the best that you can intelligently to stave that off by just following the programming. The other part, would I recommend, I would recommend dropping the weight. I guess that's the short answer right there, quite frankly. There's not much from a healthy aspect of being heavier than you should be. And so that would be my answer right there, is I would say focus on the programming, follow the workout of the day, scale when needed, understand what we have going on, and then clean up your diet and ideally try to get to a more ideal body fat percentage for yourself. Corey W. You can only choose one of these 3 movements to do for the rest of your life: thrusters, wall balls, or the squat snatch. Which are you choosing? These questions are troublesome. I can tell you right now, it's not the wall ball. Even if it was the most proven scientifically to deliver the best results out of those 3, I hate wall balls, not choosing wall balls. The squat snatch doesn't treat my shoulders too well, me personally, so I'm going to throw that out. I'm going to choose the thruster, okay, personally. And let's just say that I didn't hate wall balls. My shoulders were great, and I could squat snatch whatever I wanted. I still think, again, I haven't put a tremendous amount of thought into it, I still think that I would choose the thruster, just because I can obviously, you can modulate the loading, change the loading on the thrusters, and obviously you can change the loading on the squat snatch as well. But that ability from light to moderate to heavy thrusters, and also changing the volume of repetitions and all that, you're just going to be such a ferocious animal of fitness, if you're very, very competent at thrusters, and sure, there's less skill involved, but, blah, 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 I get that you're compared to the squat snatch, but for me personally, thruster. Okay. From Ann C. In general, I do more of the limited equipment workouts, aka the dumbbell workouts. Lately, circumstances have led me to the no equipment option workouts. I'm getting a sense that in general, these are longer workouts, which kind of makes sense. Less weight, more reps to achieve a similar result. Is this accurate, or am I just a little tired? Accurate, correct. If you think about just generally speaking, right, you've got a couple knobs to turn on programming. If you have a heavy loading, not all the time, but generally speaking, right, most people, most circumstances, most of the time, if you have a heavy loading, it's not going to be for a very high number of repetitions. Makes sense. If you have a moderate loading, then you're probably going to have a moderate number of repetitions. If you have light loading, you're not going to do you're not going to do an empty barbell thruster for 1 rep. So if you have a light loading, you're most likely going to increase the number of repetitions. And now if you have no loading at all, just body weight, you're most likely going to, yet again, do a higher volume of overall work. And that by its very nature will most likely lead the clock to keep ticking. And so yes, and you're absolutely spot on. Okay, 2 more questions here. Nick W. Switching from bodybuilding like you did in the past, which was a long time ago, to now CrossFit for a number of years, about 18. Have you still maintained muscle, or did you lose it or gain it over the years? And do you still do the accessories you program for hypertrophy work? So, let's see, number 1. Have I maintained muscle mass or lost muscle mass? Great question. My body, I think the weight on the scale has largely stayed the same, but my body composition has improved. And that's probably a combination of 2 things thanks to CrossFit, which is doing more functional compound movements like squats and deadlifts, and then actually wrapping my head around what sound nutrition actually looks like. Those 2 things are probably the biggest thing right there from body composition. But the truth is, if I look over from when I first started CrossFit in 2005 to now, and then pre-CrossFit was more, right before CrossFit was the military, which is endurance, right? Run long, swim long, huge, just grinder PT sessions. And then bodybuilding style training, chest and tris, back and bis, 3 sets of 10, all that good stuff right there, more hypertrophy work like you're saying. Where was I going with this? Oh, what's been really interesting, and I'm not special or unique, but just to use myself as a case study, is how the weight on the scale didn't change for me, and maybe body composition didn't change dramatically, but my capacity to do work skyrocketed, my physical fitness skyrocketed, and my strength skyrocketed. And so the funny thing is, and I've told this before, when I first started CrossFit, and I didn't deadlift before that, I was just doing, leg extension, leg curl, bent over rows, like, bodybuilding style stuff. I didn't deadlift or back squat, do the leg press. I remember there was a workout, and I think it was 275 pounds the first time I tried to 1 rep max deadlift. Back in 2005, after doing all those years of bodybuilding work and endurance stuff, I could not deadlift 275 pounds for 1 rep. It was nailed to the floor. 225 pounds was super heavy. Crept my way up, and 275 was an absolute no-go. And back then, I weighed 185 pounds at body weight. Couldn't dead 275. Fast forward now, I weigh 185 pounds. So my body weight is literally the exact same as it was back in 2005. And now a 275 pound deadlift, I can just rep it out, and my 1 rep max deadlift is probably in the mid 4s. And so I put not quite 200 pounds, but almost 200 pounds on my 1 rep max deadlift over the years without gaining a single pound of body weight. What an amazing deal that is, right? I mean, because let's say I did that, but I also had to put on 25 pounds in order to do that to my deadlift. It's really cool on deadlift day, but it's not cool on run a 5K day. It's not cool on strict pull-ups day. It's not cool on burpee day. It's not cool on a whole bunch of other days, but it's really cool on deadlift day. And so to be able to increase your actual work capacity as a human being in the body that you have, that's been tremendous and been one of the most impressive things from CrossFit style training. And the accessory work, I do it profoundly rarely, and every now and then. And that's usually just because, well, it is optional. You really don't need to do it, truth be told. You really don't. And quite often, usually at the end of a workout, I feel plenty tired and don't feel the need to do more. And then also just life is busy. And sometimes when I finish that workout, I either got to get back in and get working out or handle something with one of the 3 kids or whatever it happens to be. And so that's just usually how life shakes out. All right, final question is from Josh B, and it also is related to accessory work. It says, all right, Pat, if you decide to do the optional accessory work, how do you or would you approach the loading/intensity? It would be helpful to walk through a couple examples, maybe something like a 3x10 deadlift, 3x1 back squat, or 4x1 minutes of devil's press, which pops up from time to time, 50 burpees, etc., etc., etc. Something else, that resembles, a workout. So if I was going to, if it was one of those days where I was going to choose to do the optional accessory work after the workout, as unsatisfying as this answer probably is, it just so very much largely depends upon the athlete and how you're feeling after that workout. If it was one of my high intensity days that I chose to make it a high intensity day for that week, there's a really good chance that I emptied the tank and I don't have much left after that, and I don't need to put myself into an additional hole, and so I most likely wouldn't do anything. But even if I chose to do something, I certainly wouldn't try to bring the heat like I did in the previous workouts. So it would be a moderate intensity and moderate loading session at best for me personally. Now again, since it is up to the individual, the human body is an interesting thing, and it could be one of those crazy things like the other day after Christine that has 3 sets of 12 bodyweight deadlifts in it. I rest for a bit, and let's say that there's deadlifts, after that, some heavier sets. And maybe after 5 minutes of cooling down and pedaling the bike a bit and rolling out of it, I'm like, you know what? She's actually feel really good. Well, I might make the decision to push it a bit because I feel good. Cook while the stove's hot, see what's going on. But generally speaking, I would use it more as a moderate session and just to build some capacity, like if it was 50 burpees for time or something like that, I would play it by ear. Do I feel good, like I'm going to get after it? I'd get after it. Do I feel like I'm just going to move and do this as a 5 or a 6 out of 10 as far as like a rate of perceived exertion? Absolutely nothing wrong with doing that as well. And so that's probably unsatisfying, but it is the actual truthful answer, that it really is up to the individual and how you feel that day. And I believe that the workout of the day should get your best effort, and then play it by ear with, if you so choose to do the accessory work, which is truly 100% optional. No one has to do accessory work to be wonderfully fit. So that's that. Okay. Well, hopefully that was a good thing. I covered everything there. Enjoy the rest of your rest day today. And for anyone heading to the Rogue Invitational, end of October, I will see you there. I look forward to it.